The Defense Department has locked itself into another decades-long lease, this time for privatized military barracks, expanding a housing model that has posed significant challenges for military family housing for decades. A Senate lawmaker now warns that the 50-year agreement will limit the Pentagon's ability to change contract terms and hold private companies accountable for inadequate living conditions. Federal News Network's Anastasia Obis is here with more details. Anastasia, thank you for joining me.
Hi, Terry.
DoD's been talking for years about expansion of privatized barracks. Why do they want to go in that direction?
So, DoD has long struggled to maintain its aging infrastructure, and it has been falling on barracks. Many are familiar with the 2023 GAO report, and that was a wake-up call both for Congress and for the Defense Department. That report detailed disastrous conditions in barracks. It detailed mold, pest infestation, broken air conditioning, broken sewage pipes, and the list goes on and on. The service's barrack system has been deeply underfunded for years, and the leadership has been openly saying that they have been prioritizing operational demands over barracks maintenance for years. In 2024, for example, Marine Corps Commandant General Eric Smith said, look, we had to focus on weapon systems. We had to focus on technology for the past 2 decades of war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I can't apologize for prioritizing training and equipment. But now we have to focus on that. So the services now continue to face this growing backlog of necessary repairs, and privatized barracks would help address some of this massive, long-standing backlog of deferred maintenance. It would help modernize barracks, and it would help DoD focus on its mission.
There was a pretty high-profile incident last summer with Marine Corps barracks, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And not just the Marine Corps. I think just a couple of months ago, it was a very high-profile case with the Navy. There are just so many cases like that.
So it goes across all of the services.
Absolutely.
Well, the services have been struggling with privatized military housing for similar decades. What's driving the scrutiny there, and why do they think it will be better applied to military barracks?
Yeah, many are familiar that private companies now have control over 99% of military housing in the U.S., and they have this lucrative long-term contracts. And it has become a crisis. A new survey, for example, has found that nearly every service member living in a privatized home has experienced serious problems. Many report their family's health had been negatively affected by their housing conditions. Military families say work orders are often ignored. Many families pay a lot of out-of-pocket expenses for things like air purifiers or hotel stays just to manage these inhabitable conditions. It's almost impossible to hold the companies accountable. The companies have a practice of making military families sign non-disclosure agreements, and that would prohibit families from talking about conditions that they had in their military homes once they move out. Just one example, just recently, military families who lived at an Air Force base in Tampa, Florida, filed a lawsuit against the private company called the Michaels Organization over hazardous living conditions, particularly over toxic mold and persistent water damage that wouldn't be fixed. And in that lawsuit, military families alleged that their pleas for help would be met with corporate indifference, and they alleged that the company has a cartel-like hold on the housing monopoly. That company has also been accused of requiring military families to sign those non-disclosure agreements. And a side note, their chief executive in 2024 was named in a federal racketeering indictment, but then the charges were dropped. But this is an example, and this lawsuit is just one of dozens of lawsuits filed over the last couple of years.
Members of Congress are weighing in here as well. What are they saying about the effort to privatize barracks?
Yeah, so last year, Senator Elizabeth Warren asked the Pentagon about their plan to privatize barracks. That would be starting with the one at Fort Irwin in California. Their recent responses show that they have locked in a lease running through 2079 with the Michaels organization that we just talked about. She asked questions like what penalties would be put in place should the Michaels organization violate the terms of the agreement. And the department didn't really mention any specific accountability tools or measures, just beyond withholding award incentives when providers fail to meet their agreement requirements. She also asked to what extent the current contracts between DoD and private companies give DoD the ability to amend agreement terms, to which DoD said that the project ground leases are real estate partnership agreements and that do not include or require explicit change clauses for the benefit of the government. So Warren said that this would just limit the department's ability to fight back against private companies if anything goes wrong. And there is a proven record for DoD of 50-year leases with no change clauses, kind of silencing families with NDAs in companies being shielded from FOIAs. So it's possible the model could work, but there has to be some basic accountability for private companies.
It sounds like DoD is moving forward. Are they expanding the barracks privatization beyond Fort Irwin?
So far, they have a couple of projects. For the one in California that we just talked about, they're saying that the Army will actually not be assigning soldiers to units within that development, and they will not guarantee occupancy for this project. There are also projects for junior enlisted troops at Fort Meade in Maryland and at Army Garrison Miami, and it supports Southern Command. The department said that the Army is looking at the expansion of privatized barracks, but it's under no obligation or kind of commitment to do so. They also said that currently they do not have any proposals from the military departments to expand the unaccompanied housing privatization beyond the projects that they already have.
That's Federal News Network's Anastasia Obis. Anastasia, thanks for keeping us updated on this important issue.
Thank you, Terry.
You can find her story at federalnewsnetwork.com.